The Wheeling Plan Commission meeting for Thursday, January 24th, 2019 is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blanova.
I'm here.
Commissioner Creech.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Kalis.
Here.
Commissioner Powers is here, and Chairman Rafato.
Here. Steve, any changes to the agenda?
Yes, there has been one addition to the agenda, which has also been published on the website and posted here in Village Hall, is the addition to item 7B, the adoption of rules and procedures for public hearings before the Village Plan Commission. There's one public hearing agenda item today, which is agenda item 7C, docket number 2019-1, and the item is for the Plan Commission to make a motion and vote on prior to opening that public hearing.
Great, thank you very much. So, citizen concerns and comments.
Okay. Citizens' concerns and comments. Members of the public may address the Plan Commission with comments regarding only those issues that are relevant to the Plan Commission's agenda or topics that the Plan Commission has the authority pursuant to the Village Code to address. The chairperson or his or her designee shall strictly restrain comments to matters that are relevant to the Plan Commission business and shall not permit repetitious comments or arguments. Members of the general public who wish to address the Plan Commission must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public hearing. A person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allocated 5 minutes to present their points. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have a number of folks. Pete Perkins. Mr. Perkins.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
My name is Pete Perkins.
And do you have an address, sir?
Yes, 135 East Hinch Road in Wheeling, Illinois.
Right, yes, sir.
Okay. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Handyfoil Corporation.
Yes.
And Handyfoil Corp. operates a 330,000 square foot facility just west and adjacent to the proposed site plan for the rezoning. Handyfoil is a leading manufacturer of aluminum pans. We've been operating this facility here in Wheeling for over 30 years. Our facility currently deploys a workforce of over 650, working across 3 daily shifts in a variety of positions, including light assembly, manufacturing, distribution. We've had a long history with the village, and our operations and workforce has grown and expanded across this site and continues to grow at a strong pace today. Presently, we have reached capacity at this facility and have recently expanded outside the village. But while we have operations outside of Wheeling, we have always looked to Wheeling as our home and look to expand here further. While we don't object to the rezoning of this property, we do object to the rezoning of the property at this time, as we feel it's premature due to a property dispute we have relative to the vacation of Kerry Lane and Dean Avenue. We want to bring to attention of a dispute over the vacation of this right-of-way to the Commission's attention. We filed this in December with the village. It's a vacation that had originally been given to Handyfoil via ordinance and then reversed. This vacation of right-of-way is integral to the site plan and integral to the rezoning. So we feel at this time it's premature to approve the rezoning of the property.
Can I stop you for 1 second, and I will. What I've neglected to say is that you have 5 minutes at this point in time.
Okay.
In the public hearing. If you're going to speak at public hearing, you can have more time.
Okay.
But you have 5 minutes at this time, and I paused it so you have about 3.5 minutes left.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we would encourage the Plan Commission, as they're reviewing it, to just review our objection that, again, we're not opposed or we're not objecting to the rezoning itself, just that it's a premature review at this time because of the dispute over the vacation of the right-of-ways. And we'd ask that you take a look at that objection, which we submitted to the village in December.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you very much. Mary Ann Legori? Hi.
Good evening.
Name and address?
My name is Mary Ann Legori, 105 Dever Lane.
Thank you. And you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I am here asking that this had just been posted to the village website late Tuesday afternoon. You have an adoption of rules and procedures for public hearings before the Village Plan Commission coming up before all of the other proceedings. And I am asking that you scratch C, D, and E from the agenda to give residents, public bodies more time to scrutinize over this. This was posted just 2 days ago. And you have not even approved or talked about your adoption of rules and procedures for public hearings. And I'd like to have a deeper understanding and more time to scrutinize over that. And I think we're entitled to that. You know, I've recently learned that other municipalities give their taxing bodies 45 days to scrutinize over very specifics. If it's the 6B or whatever it is, they give their public bodies. So I am requesting that you scratch this from the agenda for this evening to allow proper time to scrutinize, and I think it's within our rights as residents, as citizens of Wheeling, more time than just a couple days to take a look at this. You haven't even approved anything yet about how your public meetings will be running, and I'm respectfully requesting that. The mission statement for the village, just because I have a few minutes, is to provide public services that support the evolving needs of overall safety, health, and welfare, and I believe that there's an impact that affects this. They didn't include any kind of environmental study. They're asking to take 9 acres and swipe it away. It's 9 acres of green. They're asking, it's all green. It's trees and green, and there's no other market study, environmental study, traffic study that goes along with this. And for a developer to come into the village to ask to swipe out 9 acres of green, an environmental study should be part of that. You know, and part of what when it comes specifically with the residents, this is what a semi-truck on a 6-foot fence looks like. And they are not appropriately screening anything. And there's other things to be scrutinized, but because we have not had enough time to scrutinize, to look at it, it's not appropriate to go ahead with the rezoning at this time, given it's only 2 days, given that you have not yet at this time adopted the rules and procedures. I am respectfully asking you to scratch all 3 items off of the agenda this evening out of respect, out of citizens' rights, and out of appropriateness. Thank you.
I just want to comment on
Sure.
the
I was
publication
just
of the
gonna ask
agenda. The agenda was published on Friday last week, which is the standard publication or distribution timing for the agenda. Items 7C, D, and E were on that original agenda. What was added on Tuesday was the adoption of the rules and procedures. In addition, in terms of public notice, the notice for the rezoning as required of the 250-foot notification range was provided 15 days prior to today's date. So in terms of notification of the public hearing, that was provided. And then again, just wanted to clarify in terms of the agenda was published on Friday minus the item adoption of rules and procedures.
I'd like to respectfully correct that. Actually, on Tuesday, when I opened up the agenda, there was no specific detailed information that came along with this. As per usual, what happens, each agenda item has specific information. I had called the village Tuesday morning. I had called to talk to the deputy clerk. I said, it's not online. Just curious why this hasn't happened yet. I've called multiple times, and all of that information did not get posted until 2 days prior to. And out of respect for citizens' rights and public scrutiny, I am requesting a 45-day, let's hold off on this, scratch it from the agenda. That was not appropriately done. Out of all due respect, it's within our rights to be able to at least look at that and scrutinize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mallory, were they posted in the?
Yes, the Open Meetings Act actually only requires 48 hours notice of posting of an agenda, and it only requires the agenda to be posted. The village goes above and beyond by posting its entire packet with the documents in it. It's not required under state law to post those on the website. Obviously, the documents have been at Village Hall and could have been requested through Freedom of Information Act.
Thank you. Continuing on with citizen concerns and comments. Oops, I'm sorry, wrong list. Mr. Taplin?
Hello, my name is Phil Taplin. I reside at 95 Fox Lane, Wheeling, Illinois, Wolf Run Estates. I agree with Mary Ann, although you say that you've got it under policy that we only get 2 days. It just seems not right to the public that you do something like this. We need more notification on this. We need more time to scrutinize what's going on. Although I am outside the working perimeter of your 250 feet, I will still be impacted by it, not only by price changes on the houses we have there. I don't know how that's going to affect us. Pollution. I don't know. I don't believe there's been any traffic studies on this, even when Global was doing this. I think you guys need more time to scrutinize this and really look into it, because it's going to impact the whole area. And I know Wheeling doesn't want us there. We're just a blighted community and everything else, but we still have rights as being citizens of Wheeling, I think. And I wish somebody would just take a little more time and delve into this a little better and give us some more time to delve into it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bob Liguori?
I'm going to say more of the same. There needs to be more time. That wasn't enough. It seemed really crooked. It sounded crooked when you guys said it, as I'm looking at you. And when she held up pictures, everyone put their head down, didn't want to look at them. At this point, I have no respect for any one of you. It's awful. I don't know why you guys would do that. Are we humans here? Do you guys live in Wheeling? I don't understand why you would do that to any citizens. A 6-foot fence, the picture she was showing, would be right across from someone's property. That's insane. What's the matter with you? There's no distance from a house. There's no, I have no idea why when she held that pictures up, you guys wouldn't look. How disrespectful. How awful. In 48 hours, when was that, Tuesday night? Because I remember when they were posted. It's evil. Give a little time for people to look at this and go back home and use your human side and think how it affects you or your family or your kids or anybody else. I have no understanding of this. The Pledge of Allegiance and some of the words that were said is not being done here. That's for sure. The way disrespect was done. Why don't we at least do that and think about what was said? Thank you.
That's all we have for the citizen concerns and comments. Yes.
Yes, sir, and you're coming up here in what regard?
For this same
Okay,
same situation.
did you,
Hi, my name is Kurt
there was a
Lance.
sign-up sheet?
I just got here, I got a little late.
Okay, that's
but
fine,
I
sir.
just had to take a minute or
understand.
two.
Yep, I understand. You
I-
have 5 minutes.
I live at 1030 Carroll Avenue, I'm one of the.
And your
property-
name is, sir?
Kurt Latsky.
Thank you.
I live at 1030 Carroll Avenue, and in one of the properties that is being bought up. So, but just to say, I've been there longer than anyone here. And if anyone couldn't see how that neighborhood was going to be going in the future, they weren't looking the right way, because it's all around us, and we knew it, and it was going to happen, and it did. And I think it's a great thing, as gentleman who's buying my property, enforcing this out. He gave us a very good offer. Everything is fine. And I really believe that this is a great thing for that spot right there. Thanks.
Thank you. Hold on, I'm just writing a note. Okay. Those are his concerns and comments. Moving on with the agenda. Consent items. Docket number SCBA 18-52. Destaco, 144 South Wolf Road, appearance approval of a freestanding sign. There it is. And docket number SCBA 19-2, Kiki's Monte Carlo Cafe, 1201 West Dundee Road, Unit B, appearance approval of a wall sign. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Powers, second by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Chairman Nafato?
Yes. Items for review. Docket number PC 18-19, JV Global Services LLC, 150 Abbott Drive, minor change to approved site plan. Steve?
Yes, as noted in the staff report, the property owner had received prior approval back in 2016, which is the plan you see here, to allow for 78 parking spaces. And through the repaving and other improvements to the site, there was a restriping that was done to increase the spacing to what is currently, I believe, 80, I don't have that number on the top of my head here, but to increase the spacing, which would allow more vehicles, they have provided the attached site plan here, demonstrating fire truck maneuvering and relocation of employee parking to be near the office. And although not identified, noted on the plan, there are 3 small spaces located at the southeast corner of the property with a kind of a rounded square around them. That is where they've identified for the new snow storage to be located.
Okay, thank you. Is the petitioner here?
Good evening. My name is Dan Shapiro. My office is at 618 Academy Drive in Northbrook. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I think Steve went through it pretty nicely. Since December, we have met with the fire department and also have provided plans which the fire department ultimately has found to be appropriate and safe, if I'm not mistaken. And that seemed to be our biggest concern, or the staff's biggest concern as of December 10th. So we're asking for the minor site plan approval, which, among other things, does provide for snow turning for larger trucks and vehicles. And the other items, I believe, that Steve mentioned that were conditions with the original special use have all been taken care of, but for a small portion of the northern fence, that's due to weather. So I know that the client who's here tonight has been working with staff diligently with regards to those items.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Shapiro? No. Okay, we'll start with Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. My first question is, was the site ever striped the way it was approved? It seems like they just went to this new pattern, even though that's not what was approved.
So I understand your concern for reading the staff report, and just by way of some explanation. Our neighbors to the south were at a very critical stage with regards to their capacity to safely get cars in and out. What we did was a mistake, and we accommodated them and gave them 20 cars. That was our mistake. We acknowledge that, but we really thought to do so in a very tight moment, in almost, safety situation, was trying to be a good neighbor.
Well, it seems like that would have been the time to come and...
You are right. I cannot say that you're not. It was, like I said, it was our error, but it wasn't made out of any malicious intent. It was an error. We were trying to accommodate a situation to the south.
And how far back was that happened? Right after we approved the other plan?
I don't know offhand. Steve, do you know? 6 months ago? Oh, 6 months, 6 months later.
If you would like to please come up and speak into the microphone.
Good evening, everyone. Ashley Zinger, 150 Abbott Drive. That happened when I believe they changed their shifts. Something happened. So they had 3 shifts and then they went to 2. Something happened because there was, it was a disaster. They were parking, they were blocking receiving areas. The trucks will come in. There's a personal vehicles parked. They parked on grass. It was all over. So one of the top managers reached out and said, please help. We got to do something. And yes, we did follow the original plan, and all the stripes were done the way we were approved. And when they approached us, we went ahead and helped them out. It is our mistake by doing something good, and we're here today. We reacted right away. We hope to get there.
Okay. Steve, do we know that it was restriped?
It was striped, and then the site was then repaved, and then as
That's when they went to this pattern?
Right, after they had done the repavement work and everything else. So when the owner first moved in is when they were the way it was approved.
Okay,
And then
thank
it
you.
was
That's all I
improved
had.
to the site.
Thank you.
Commissioner Creech.
The only question I have is what's the zoning on this particular property? Is this I-2?
This is, yes, this is I-3, actually, I-3 General Industrial.
Okay, so what are the required setbacks for this particular property? Because it seems like they have the parking on the north property line all the way up to the fence.
Yes, for setbacks, it would be building structure setbacks. In terms of parking setbacks, it's more.
Well, this is storage.
Right. So the setbacks that would be in the zoning code would be just for any structures. So in this case, it would just be the office building, which does meet the setback requirements when they constructed it. Parking is kind of at the determination of the Plan Commission in terms of whether or not they feel
Well,
that.
we do have setback requirements for parking, correct?
My understanding is that the setbacks as they relate to parking and landscaping can be determined by the Plan Commission in regards to the side yards for, the parking.
Well, this would be the rear yard setback,
Yes.
correct?
Correct. And
And we have nothing in our code that determines that?
that's correct. That's my understanding, yes.
The parking at the far north has not changed from the original plan, is that?
Yes, it has. On the original one, you have like
25
15, 25 feet on, 25 feet.
Oh, okay.
Now you're all the way up to the fence.
Yep.
It's my understanding that we didn't allow, we require a setback on all sides of our properties. And this is going from 25 feet to nothing. So this isn't just a minor change. This is, in my eyes, it's a big change.
We bought it from a company that used this parking for parking trailers. We did not touch the curbs, that's original. So they parked trailers before and trucks.
I didn't say that they were doing it the right way back then either. I'm just saying that this is not just a minor change. I think they need to come to us with more than just this. Because now they're asking us to give them a variance on the setback
I don't know that
on the rear lot.
I don't know that determination has yet been made, I believe.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Right, and so I believe Steve's looking to determine whether a variance is required, if at all.
Not a setback, not a variance. Right, well, that's what he's asking for, if it's required.
Correct. I will tell you that, while you're looking at that,
It's 17 feet, I think.
Yeah, building setbacks.
It's like 17 feet from what I see on I-3.
Those relate to the principal building and accessory buildings.
as opposed to the lot line which is not where the principal building, which I believe Commissioner Creech is talking about, the lot line, which is in the opposite side of the lot where the
It says
building.
minimum rear yard setback standard is 17 feet. That's what I see on mine.
Understood.
Yes, that 17 feet is correct. That is for, again, the principal building. So when you have a building, that rear yard setback would be 17 feet. I'm still looking for parking lot. The accessory building.
Well, we still don't allow them to go right up to the fence, no matter what. I've never seen that on any of our codes, in any industrial.
I'll keep looking for you, Mr. Creech.
Well, we might want to, if that's a question, we might want to table this or continue it, because this is a,
Minor.
we're right now saying that it's a minor, and if that is, an issue, and I'm looking through the zoning, and it's mostly, what I'm seeing is.
I'm sorry, on F,
Right, but
it
that,
says minimum rear yard setback, 10 feet. Minimum parking setback, all sides, 10 feet.
but F is relating to a detached accessory
That's
buildings.
buildings.
So it has to tie to an accessory building. That's not just for a.
Mr. Chair, if I may make a
Yes.
suggestion? If this commission is so inclined to make a decision subject to staff's final determination on setback issues, instead of having us come back,
I'm sorry, but if it's a minor right now, which doesn't go to the board, Mr.
Right,
Shapiro, you
right.
should probably know this.
I do know that.
And that if it changes, it becomes something other than a minor, and that requires more than just the community development changing it and then not passing it on. So if anything, if anything, we can continue it and get this resolved, and then you can come back. if need be. Because this is a minor site plan right now, and it could change to something that could be a major. And then we need to discuss that. So,
And in that regard, I also would like to see the rest of the dimensions between the parking spots for the overall site plan, because it looks like the aisles are smaller than on the original plans as well.
Correct.
So looks like that would make the truck maneuverability much different. Not so much the fire department, because that's right here, but for the tractors and trailer maneuverability would change dramatically as well, I would think, if these aisles are even 5 foot smaller than what they were before.
The intent of the plans that you see on your screen here was to show both trucks and fire equipment, but we certainly will
That's not what you have
accommodate.
there.
We'll certainly accommodate whatever we need to do, Commissioner Creech.
Okay, so we'll have to continue, I would think.
And they've had this layout now without approval for how long? 2 years?
A year and a half, sir.
Year and a half. Sorry for the interruption.
2 years.
okay. Let's, I'm of the, this would be a continuation, right, Mallory?
Yes.
Yes, so, but I'm of the opinion that I will let the other commissioners ask their questions. Commissioner Creech, are you done? Do you have any more questions?
Not this time, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Kalis.
Thank you, Chairman. My question was similar, related, just with the sizing. In the previous, in the 2016 view, you had 70 feet of the aisle size, and you do not indicate what the aisle size is in this drawing, at least that I could see. So if you could just, because it didn't seem to, I was curious how you were adding a whole other row, and the setback plays into it. The aisles being smaller probably plays in. I would like to see the actual numbers of what the aisle is now versus what it was on the old plan.
Happy to do so.
Just because it's a math equation, right?
Yeah.
And especially as setbacks concerned. So more detail on the sizing. That's all I need. Thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
I kind of had the same concerns, and I kind of noticed that the parking in the front next to the office was changed. Because when I initially looked at this, I go, oh, wait a minute, how did we get here? And then I noticed that they took the parking that was on the south lot line, they butted it up against the building, and I agree. I mean, that's pretty creative, but it looks cramped, so I'd like to see some dimensions too.
Similar dimensions as your colleagues have asked for?
Yep, that's it.
Commissioner Blanova.
No comments on this point, thank you.
Okay, thank you. My comments, and thank you, Commissioner Creech, for pointing that out. I'm looking for it. The area where you say that the snow removal, snow is going to go, right at the entrance?
Yes.
How are you going to manage that? Have you seen some of the piles around here right now for snow that are even smaller than some of these lots, and you're going to try to put them into 3 lots? I mean, into 3 parking spaces?
Well, I think the answer to the question is whatever can't fit in the 3 will be taken off.
You know, I would, you know, we can add that as a condition in the future, but I'm skeptical of that happening. And then, well, and it's really not my issue. You're going to have an issue getting in, and then you've got the trash enclosure there. So I think you need to look at that, where that is being, you're going to run into issues, and that, I think you should look at that. I don't know why it wasn't in the furthest part of this piece of property. But I think you have bigger issues with the setbacks and trying to determine those. So with that, do we need a date certain on this, Mallory? Or just continue to?
You don't need a.
Okay.
It's not a public hearing.
All right. So.
Motion to continue, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I have a motion to continue docket PC 18-19 JV Global Services LLC And Mr. Shapiro, you know what we're looking for here.
I do.
And,
I do.
and staff is part of this too.
Sure.
The dimensions of that. So I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Powers, second by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Belanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Chairman Raffato?
Yes. Thank you.
Do we move the next meeting then?
Yeah, we'll coordinate on
Thank you.
available meeting.
Great, thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for a 5-minute recess?
Yes, thank you. I have a motion for a 5-minute recess. You okay with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Since we have that time. Mallory can... We're back in session. Item B, adoption of rules and procedures for public hearings before the, before the Village Plan Commission. Mallory?
Yeah, so for years, the village has had public hearing procedure pursuant to the law, but it's never really been formalized other than some large hearings. So all this is doing is formalizing the approach that the village uses, the Plan Commission uses already, with a little more formality when it comes to the public's right to speak, so to make sure that they're getting all their, that there's a clear part in time for all of their times to speak, and making it a little more delineated process. So this is pretty much business as usual for the Plan Commission, other than having it as a formalized process.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to approve the, to adopt the rules and procedures for public hearings. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Creech, second by Commissioner Johnson.
Kalis.
Kalis, I'm sorry. I thought you were throwing your voice. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes, and Chairman Rafato.
Yes, thank you.
No.
So, though I disagree with some of the comments of the audience about not having ample time, the material was out there on Friday, and we all received our packets on Friday, and it was there on Friday. I'm inclined to continue dockets number 2019-1, PC 19-1, and PC 19-2. There was no malice as intended, as intimated. There was no malice in any of this, and to even think that is not right. And of course, and that's why I said I'm going to continue this. And you have to understand something also. Somebody asked if we were even residents of this town. And you have to understand, to be appointed to this, you have to be a resident. So I'm going to make, do we have to put these, continue them?
To a date certain.
To a date certain, individually?
Yes.
Okay, so, and the date certain is going to be February 14th, which is our next meeting. Do I hear a motion to continue docket number 2019-1, Wolf Road Industrial, rezoning to I-2 Limited Light Industrial District?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Powers, second by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Powers?
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Chairman Rafato.
Yes. Motion to continue docket number PC 19-1.
To date February 14th.
To date certain of February 14th, site plan appearance approval of industrial warehouse building. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Blanova. Got to put your microphone down. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Chairman Rafato.
Yes. Motion to continue docket number PC 19-2, Wolf Road Industrial Preliminary Site Plan, Preliminary Plat of Subdivision Approval of Wheeling Road Industrial. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Creech. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes, and Chairman Rafato.
Yes. Thank you. That's right.
They're just continuances, that's all, just in case you want them.
Moving on. Approval of minutes of January 10th, 2019.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, I need a correction on the finding of facts on docket 2018-31 Kelly's Cafe. The vote needs to reflect that Commissioner Creech voted yes, and that Commissioner Kalis did in fact vote no.
That, thank you, Commissioner Creech, that has been updated and is in the updated minutes.
Thank you.
And findings of fact. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you, Steve.
Do we have a motion?
So moved with the changes.
You want to take a roll?
Take a roll.
Yep, take a roll.
Okay, Commissioner Bonova,
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes, and Chairman Rafato.
Abstain. Other business, Steve?
There's no other business from staff at this time.
Okay. Normally I start with everybody else, but I'm going to start this time. Okay. There was an email from someone in staff about our holiday party on February 9th. Please RSVP. I believe they want you to RSVP. It's at the Augustino's. And then the one thing that I'd like to talk about is, just as an aside, there has been a lot of discussion about gaming in the village. If anybody was at the village meeting on Monday or on the January 10th meeting, which I missed, there's some confusion there. So I have sent an email to Community Development, Director Jennings, and Village Manager Svandelis, asking if we could possibly have either a workshop or put together some clarifications to help us better understand the different categories, because they're falling either into restaurants or they're falling into taverns, and what is the criteria around those. And then in addition, and let me preface this by saying I'm not looking to restrict these. I'm not looking to restrict the gaming. As if anybody saw the meeting on Monday night, there's not an appetite to restrict it. So I'm okay with that. If that is the village board's desire, then let's continue on. But it makes it difficult for us if we don't. And I saw that in the Liquor Commission and then the village board as to the confusion, number of seats, food, all of those things. So one of the first things I've asked for is a table, side by side. Here's what this is, here's what this is. And maybe from that can born out another category that this could fit into, then there is no confusion. If they fit the standards, as Director Jennings has indicated, then they fit the standards. So then we can move forward on that. So I'm hoping that that is moving forward, and we'll see something in the coming months about that, because it is important for us to be in sync with the village board as to what we are approving and what is within something that is gaming. It's a restaurant, or is it a tavern? We've tried to fit this round peg into a square hole, and maybe that's not right.
Well, just and I think this is great, and I'll work with staff as well to come up with something for the village board, but as an example for the commission, Starbucks was approved as a restaurant. They produce food the same way as these gaming cafes with the convection oven and some baked goods, but they have a special use approval as a restaurant.
But they have tables and
right. So
and chairs, not
right,
just bar stools.
Right, but for the exception of that one, all the others had tables and chairs as well.
Oh, yeah.
Understood, but that lends to the confusion.
Yeah.
And then again, and related to this, is that somehow one of the board members got an old copy of something, and of that Kelly's, I think it was Kelly's that came before them this past week, and that confused. So again, that lends itself to what we're sending to the board. I mean, what is coming to us, and I will use as an example and just taking this forward, now we have an opportunity to go back to this petitioner on the spec building. We have nine conditions. Let's get those conditions into the drawings now so we can worry about it. But that leads to the gaming, and if we can get a better understanding of that and maybe add a different category, not restricting it, because we're not going to restrict it, but if we can get something more about that. And one of the things that I'm not sure if I mentioned it in public here, but I happened to be talking to a businessman who has interests in gaming outside of this area, I think northern suburbs. And they sort of welcome gaming facilities close to each other. Because what happens is, if one's filled, they don't have to get in their car, they can just walk to the next one. So you're turning something possibly into a mini casino. And I'm not sure that we've thought about those types of things, but those, as this industry matures, we need to have more understanding of what's coming in and how we can move through these things. That's what I'm looking for. So. Other business, Commissioner Johnson, and thank you.
I can't top that, Jim.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. I think in order
microphone down.
I think in order for us to understand all that gaming situation, I think we need to go back to history and find out why exactly it was banned for so long, and then figure out if it's okay for it to be on the same plaza. From one perspective, I understand, yes, it's okay for them to walk out from one door and go to another place and play. That's probably convenient for people. But at the same time, we're putting another person who invested a lot of money into design and everything, and then...
That's not our problem.
Yeah, but...
Well...
Do we need a casino?
That's the risk of going into business.
But I don't know. I think we need to dig
Yeah,
in
right.
further.
And that's what we need to, and some villages have enacted things like that. You can only X amount of feet between them or whatever. And and it's got to come before us because it's zoning things. And
The use is a zoning, but the gaming is not at all part of something you guys review. That's solely a liquor license
That's
issue.
state of Illinois, isn't that,
State of
Mallory?
Illinois.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the use is us.
The restaurant use.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, exactly. And within that use, you can put restrictions as to how it can be. So and that's all the things that we need to discuss. That's what I'm talking about. So, thank you. Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Powers.
I think you pretty much summarized it well, and I would just like to double up and say that this is a good chance for us to step back and get some of those conditions relieved, get them down in paper before us, and not have it,
confusing.
Go to the village board and put that as condition. If it needs to get there and we have time to change it, it should be changed before it comes to us and not go to the board. That's it.
And it's, again, strictly around use.
Yep.
Commissioner Kalis.
Thank you, Chairman. You said it well. Specifically, like Commissioner Johnson has said, the sit-down restaurant with nowhere to sit down is just a little confusing. So I'm second and love the idea of adding a different use or modifying it to include, certain specifics. So it's a little bit more black and white because, we are to represent the comprehensive plan of the village and make sure it's along the ways of that. And it's just not black and white. It's a new trend, and it's not been, figured out or acknowledged anywhere. So it's tough for me, to go one way or another when, being up to code is one thing, but a sit-down restaurant, it's saying that and then having nowhere to sit down to eat at a restaurant just doesn't make sense. So I would just like more specifics like you've said, Chairman, so thank you for that clarity.
Clarity, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for clarity.
Yes.
Thank you.
Same here, and that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Creech.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I myself also am looking forward to a workshop so that we all can get our ideas put out there and work along with hopefully the trustees and staff and everyone and everything on the table. And yes, I'm all for eliminating all conditions, not only on this specific item, but also a lot of the other things that come before us. There's a lot of times where I feel the presenters are here way before they should be because they don't have everything in order. Thank you. That's all I got to say about that.
Mallory?
Nothing.
And just back to the thank you party, it was an email from Steve on 1/15, and they ask you to RSVP to Lisa
Did they?
by January 30th, and it's going to be at 6 o'clock at the Augustino's. Do you guys know about it?
Maybe they weren't invited.
Yeah. Maybe we're not. Maybe Steve shouldn't have sent it to us.
Our spouses invited.
So
After tonight's meeting.
after tonight's, I might not be here anyway, so, okay. If there's nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. All right.
Sorry you guys came out tonight.